So if you're dealing with heart palpitations and having the sensation of extra beats or skipping a beat or flutters or pounding or racing type situations, you might be freaking out real nice. It's our heart. We kind of need that to work for us to get to be a human. And this can often come along with difficulty breathing or chest pain or anxiety or panic attacks. So people often are very concerned about this. And there are issues that are significant that have the ability to create these sensations, but in most cases, it's not such a horrible thing. But since it is our heart, we really want to get that checked out. And if you've had this checked out and the doctor's like, hey, everything's great, your tests are great, good job, don't know what to tell you, then you still might be having some concerns. So in this video, I want to help you understand some digestive issues that have the ability to create these heart palpitations. And it was Dr. Ludwig von Roemheld back in 1912 that figured out these issues have the ability to create palpitations. So this isn't new information, it's been around for 100 years. They even call it now Gastrocardiac syndrome. And anytime you hear something with syndrome on the name, you know that just translates into, I don't know, I don't know what's going on. Let's just put syndrome on the end of it. That'll sound cool. So if you have a syndrome, don't expect a whole lot of information about what's actually going on. You might have to dig for some things a little bit. So I dug for some research and I'm going to share some studies and papers with you today to help you understand the issues that can create these palpitations and steps you can take to improve the scenario. So let's jump over to the smart board and look at the digestive system to understand what can be going wrong. So when I reference these studies here, I'll put the links to these studies in the description below this video. It's okay if I'm standing in front of these. I'll make them big when we talk about them. But the first thing that we want to look at is this cardiobiliary reflex. And we'll look at this study here on the cardiobiliary reflex and gallbladder disease. And they say that this reflex is a well-recognized physiological response in which gallbladder pathology triggers vagal nerve signals, potentially causing significant alterations in cardiac rhythm and often mimicking primary heart conditions. So what goes on is we have this vagus nerve that goes down kind of the whole body, and it's connected to the digestive system, but also to our heart. And if there's bile that's not flowing correctly, it's very common for someone's bile to become too thick and sticky to flow correctly for a wide variety of reasons. And it'll get kind of stuck in the gallbladder. It can even continue to concentrate there until it concentrates into stones or sludge, and then things don't move correctly. And then when things don't move through that biliary pathway, it can really back up and cause a lot of pressure. So people feel like that pressure is what's causing this issue where it's causing bad signals with that vagus nerve and creating these palpitations. But if you have issues where maybe bile is not flowing correctly, you can take steps to improve that. And when you improve that, do your palpitations improve? So we'll have a link in the description below for our video on 10 signs of poor bile flow, so you can check out if that might be a problem for you. And if it is, we'll have a link to our video on 5 steps to improve bile flow. And we hear from people every day that take steps to improve it and see a lot of improvement to a wide variety of digestive issues. Now, the next thing that we want to think about is bloating and pressure. So we see this stomach here, it's really close to where the heart is. In between the stomach and the heart is the diaphragm. So let's look at this paper here on gastrocardiac syndrome. And they say that bloating is also associated with an arrhythmic heartbeat. Frequent bloating due to a very full stomach can push against the diaphragm, which can impinge the heart. Due to the movement of the diaphragm, the position of the heart changes slightly, which can trigger irregular palpitations. So this diaphragm here kind of separates the stomach from this other stuff up top and our lungs and all these things, and it moves up and down as we breathe. But if this stomach is full or bloated or pressure is pushing out on it or something is pushing it back up, then it's going to push on the heart. It also has the ability to push on or impinge that vagus nerve. So that vagus nerve runs kind of down like where through the esophagus does, right through that diaphragm. So some people have what's called a hiatal hernia, where part of that stomach is kind of pulled up through the diaphragm here, and then that stomach is really going to press on the heart or the vagus nerve and have the ability to create trouble. But if a person has a hiatal hernia, they can take steps to kind of push that down. Often a good chiropractor could help them do that. We'll have a link in the description below for our video on how to fix a hiatal hernia, because that was a big problem for me and part of what caused a lot of reflux for me and made me lose my voice for 8 years. So a hiatal hernia has the ability to create trouble. Also, if there's a hernia, then this lower esophageal sphincter that's in charge of closing so that acid doesn't come back up is in the wrong place. So now acid has the ability to come back up, and some people feel like acid coming back up and creating inflammation has the ability to cause trouble for that vagus nerve and create palpitations as well. I'll put some links below to some studies that showed that when they turned off acid reflux sensations, that improved palpitations for some people. But we want to go further than that, and when we're looking at this hiatal hernia as a possible cause for these palpitations, we also need to understand that someone may be having acid reflux without a hiatal hernia. A lot of people have acid reflux because of a lack of stomach acid. It's not always too much stomach acid like advertisers want us to believe. And when there's only a small amount of acid, it's not enough to trigger that LES valve to close, and then the small amount of acid they have comes back up and burns them and creates that inflammation and has the ability to really affect that vagus nerve in a way that can create those palpitations. If you have acid reflux issues, we'll have a link in our description below for our video on how to fix acid reflux the right way, where you're actually fixing the actual underlying cause instead of just turning off digestion more and covering up the symptom. Because we also want to understand a lot of times people are bloated because they have some type of bacterial overgrowth in the stomach that's putting out gases and waste that creates a lot of pressure and can push that stomach up. Sometimes it's just pressure pushing the stomach up that can create that hiatal hernia issue. But even without a hiatal hernia, that pressure can push things up and impinge that where that heart space is. Hey, you're in my space, get out of my space. And that can create those palpitations. So a lot of times these bacteria get into the stomach when someone doesn't have enough stomach acid to wipe them out. That stomach acid is not just there to help us break the food down so that we can get the nutrients out of that food. It's the barrier to the whole digestive tract. So when bad guys come in on the food that we eat, they're supposed to die in an acid bath. But if someone doesn't have enough acid, they can have that acid reflux like we talked about, but they can also have an overgrowth that's kind of creating all this pressure and pushing things up where it really shouldn't be. So if we're having a low stomach acid issue or a digestive overgrowth in the stomach or bile that's not flowing correctly, we can improve all of those things. We'll have a link in the description below for our totally free digestion course, and that totally free course just kind of walks you through figuring out which aspects of digestion are not working correctly for you and steps you can take to improve those. So that can help you understand how to reduce any type of overgrowth that might be creating that pressure and bloating that's going on. Now, what we also want to understand about acid reflux is when we're taking steps just to turn it off, that has the ability to create trouble with magnesium and potassium. We need stomach acid to be able to break food down well enough to assimilate potassium and magnesium. And both of those minerals are very important in proper heart function. So we want to make sure that we have those, and I'll have some papers below that showed that when people were using PPI or acid reflux medications that turned off stomach acid, that it could result in deficiencies in these issues. And that doesn't mean that I'm telling you to stop taking a PPI if your doctor tells you to take one. Remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you any medical advice. I'm basically a professional stand-up comic turned nutrition author, because when 23 different doctors couldn't help me get my voice back, I had to dig for my own answers. And now for 20 years, I've been helping health professionals learn how to help their clients fix the actual underlying causes of problems instead of just covering up the symptoms. And the last cause that your doctor might not have known about could be an alkalosis issue, where the pH of the blood is leaning a little bit too far on that alkaline side. And when that's the case, that has the ability to create trouble with oxygen being delivered to the heart and all these other muscles that really make everything work correctly. And that can also create trouble for magnesium and potassium displacement issues. So there's an easy test that you can do at home. You can just grab your smartphone and set a timer for a minute and then just relax and try to breathe normal and just count your inhales for a minute. Don't count inhale 1, exhale 2, just count the inhales. And if that breath rate in that minute is lower than 12, that can be a sign that your blood may be leaning a little bit too far on that alkaline side. This is not a diagnostic thing, but it can just give you insights. Oh, if it's like 8 or 9, That's a really strong sign that that blood could be leaning too alkaline, and this alkalosis issue could be creating these palpitations for you. So if that's the case and you see a low number there, we'll have a link for our video on oxygen utilization issues, and that'll help you walk through steps you can take to improve that scenario. And when you improve it, do the palpitations improve? So another thing we want to understand about this vagus nerve that's traveling right down that esophagus as well and is so important for our digestive process is that the body needs to be in what's called a parasympathetic side of the autonomic nervous system for digestion to work correctly. And you'll see some papers below that talk about that stress is often seen with these palpitation issues. So if a person is really stuck in the sympathetic fight or flight stressed side of that autonomic nervous system, it has the ability to restrict that vagus nerve function. And a lot of people will tell you, oh, well, you just need to stimulate the vagus nerve with this vagus nerve stimulator. You need to work on your vagus nerve. You need to go to a garage sale and get a new vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is broken. But a lot of time it's just that the person is very stressed, or the body might be really stressed. Maybe the body is dealing with some type of infection or a lack of resources that's kind of stressing the body out, and the body is stuck in that fight or flight state. But we find that if a person can move out of that stress state, then the body and the vagus nerve and everything can work correctly. So if that vagus nerve is either being impinged by something pushing on it, or there's some type of stress restricting function, that seems to have the ability to create these circumstances where palpitations can happen. So if you feel like you're stressed or your body is stressed, you can check out our video on how to correct an overly sympathetic imbalance, and that can walk you through the process of improving that scenario so your body won't be so stuck in that fight or flight state. So you can see why this is a confusing topic. Look at all these different things that have the ability to create these palpitations just on the digestive side of the body. There's lots of other things that could do it, like even caffeine and simple things like that. But when we're looking at the digestive process, you can see there's different things that we really need to look at to understand what's going on with us. And that free digestion course will help you walk through that and figure out which aspects of digestion are causing trouble for you. So I hope that helps you figure out some answers for your palpitations. And right now, if you know that you're having other digestive symptoms, you can jump over and check out our video on full digestive reset. I can't wait to hear about your results.